So I have a very, very capable fill-in to my right, our Vice President for Business Administration, because one of the things we're going to talk about with this group, that some of this group, I know last year a couple of you said, you know, that you learned a little bit about what the finances of Division II look like versus Division I, because certainly, you know, while we don't have, you know, bowl money and television money and multimedia rights money like Division I does, it's actually college athletics in its purest form, because you have students that come and invest, and Alicia had her team to put together some numbers for this retreat that I think we'll be able to share later that I think you'll find very, very informative and give us some great perspective on the value of college athletics on our campus. So with that, to my far right, which way I spend my chair, we've known each other a really long time, involved in our professional organization, NACTA, for many years, and hopefully many of you have already seen his bio. I know it was sent out, but Tim Selgo retired last year after 20 years as Director of Athletics at Grand Valley State, and just very frankly, folks, they're where we want to go. They're every summer at our national convention at the luncheon, it's a tradition that he's outlasted a few Stanford athletic directors, but the AD from Stanford stands up for Division I, and Tim Selgo stands up for Division II and accepts the Learfield Cup, which is overall athletic proficiency, which means we had a very successful year. Well, they've had a very successful, dominant 2 decades. So we're very, very fortunate to have someone I consider not only an esteemed colleague, but a good friend. So thank you for being here. We met Ryan and Alicia, and Tim's going to spend some time with us during lunch. I think we're going to bring lunch back in here and then work through lunch and then be around this afternoon. So we know I know you guys were on the edge of your seats to hear the strategic plan update. So we're going to actually defer that to our fall meeting. So we can have more time with Tim and with Tim Selgo. I thought that would get a stirring round of applause. Anyway, but really want to jump right in, and we'll pitch this in a different way to kind of all three of you. Just personal observations, having been on campus for you less than 24 hours, but other than knowing that we do know how to do Tex-Mex from dinner last night, some initial observations of how A&M Commerce fits in the overall Division II footprint.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here, and congratulations to everybody here on all the great things you're doing here. When you talk about impressions, you know, my knowledge of commerce is through Tim and in the sports world, and you played Grand Valley in football last year and all that. So this is my first visit, and you've got a special place here, and you've got things going on, new nursing building going up, and you've got great things going on, and I can feel the excitement about commerce and everything associated with the institution. So congratulations to all of you. You've got great things going here, and it's a special place. And as I've gotten to know the coaches a little bit yesterday and today, and listened to them here today, and all the great things, the student athletes you have, one of your best and brightest right here in the front row, and Taryn, that's great impressions. You know, I'm going to go away from this trip thinking even more highly of Texas A&M Commerce than before I got here. So that's important. The branding, we mentioned branding, and Tim had up here, tell your story. You've got some great stories. Tell your stories. And it's been a pleasure for me just in the few hours I've been here, because I can feel it. Again, I'll describe it as special. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about it as a Division II institution as we go here, but I think that's a key part of it. So congrats to everything you're doing.
What I would add to what Tim said, and I definitely agree with everything that he said, is Tim said it's a special place. I think it's a special place because of the administration that you guys have in place. That are extremely supportive of the athletic department that is here at Texas A&M Commerce. You know, it starts at the top with the administration. The administration has to buy into athletics, and it looks like the administration has done that here. but it's all of you guys, coaches, support staff, etc. You guys are in the trenches day in and day out with your student athletes that are basically, you guys are leading by example, doing everything to your best ability. And it was awesome to hear every single coach get up here this morning and talk about all the achievements and the accomplishments, and definitely want to commend you for doing that. So, as Tim said, yes, I will walk away knowing that Texas A&M Commerce is a very special place, and you guys are doing some awesome, awesome things here.
I think just looking at this room is a reflection of what this university feels about athletics, and particularly two deans coming to these meetings. And Dr. Tardo and I were just talking at lunch, you know, and he said every coach started with academics first. And that's a great message to send back to the deans, that we cherish that first. You know, athletics is second, but academics is first. And just every time I go by the president's office, I see recruits sitting out there waiting to talk to Dr. Keck. I bet there's not another university that does that. So I think just we have such pride in this program. Very proud to be a part of Lion Athletics.
That sets the table a little bit for where I want to take this before we open it up. And again, at any time, please jump in. The thing that I thought we started down the track with last year in this event, which obviously many of us in the room saw, but what I'd like to talk about is really the value of Division II. We talk about it being the right level. We talk about it, and I thought some of the economics that Derek on your team did preparing us for this was just terrific. So let's just take it, let's do some basic football metaphor, let's do some blocking and tackling. You know, we don't have 63 scholarships in football like FCS does. We don't have 15 women or 13 men's basketball scholarships. It's very rare, if ever, that a Division II student athlete is on a full athletics grant and aid. And I think just for, you know, some of the deans in the room, or even some of our newer athletic council members who may not understand, for example, at our place, 115.3 equivalencies. We do fund every sport scholarship budget, which is a point of difference in D2, as we know. I think only 4 in the country doing that. But let's talk about that equivalency. And you know, we've all 4 obviously been on 1 or more Division II campuses. For 3 of us, we've been on many Division II campuses. But talk about the value, the intrinsic value that it brings in terms of take the athlete part out of bringing students to campus.
Well, mathematically, simply, let's use football. Kobe, how many guys you bringing in here in a couple days?
133.
133, and you've got 36 scholarships to you. So that's about 100. I'll describe them as full retail paying students coming to Texas A&M Commerce because of the football program. I mean, besides the branding, besides the notoriety, besides the visibility football gives you, and these other sports give you, it's that. It's 100 full retail paying male students. That's important today. I can tell you, now that I've been out of being a director of athletics and I'm in the consulting world now, I visited quite a few Division II campuses this past year. And enrollment is a huge issue around this country. Huge issue. Sounds like you're in pretty good shape here at Commerce, and your admissions office, everybody's doing a great job collectively, and your enrollment's up, and as is ours at Grand Valley. But boy, there's a lot of schools that are not in that boat. And I don't know about the public institutions in Texas. Grand Valley State is 85% tuition funded today. When I was in college a long, long time ago, that was probably reversed. State support, public support for higher ed has gone down, and therefore we've become more private. Grand Valley, we were 85% private school, and we had to start thinking like a private, acting like a private. We had to start developing endowment funds. It's what you have to do in today's world of higher ed. And that piece about the partial scholarships and equivalency, so you have 115 athletic scholarships and 400, and how many students have? 424. So there's 300 full retail paying students coming to Commerce. Could you replace them? I don't know. Who knows? Maybe you could. Sure you could. I mean, admissions office have to kick it into gear, replace those 300 students. But at a school like Grand Valley, public school, it's 85% tuition funded. Minus 300 students is a big financial problem. People like John are saying no, even more when you have that issue. So overall, enrollment's a huge issue, I think, in Division II, but our partial scholarship model, I believe, makes Division II special. We help young people get an education. We help them out so they don't have that huge debt that others without them scholarship have. And not only that, we give them a great experience in our learning lab of college athletics. So I believe Division II. I went to the University of Toledo, Division I school, the equivalent to the Southland schools probably here in Texas. And great institution, I love it. I got both my degrees from there, spent 20 years there, but there's something special about Division II institutions and what we do to prepare these young people for real life. And I'm going to talk more about that later on, but I think that's special about Division II.
From both the campus and the national office perspective.
And I was going to say exactly what Tim just said, in that you have so many student athletes that would not likely be here without athletics. And you guys do a great job of giving them that full experience, that once they commit and be a Lion, they're going to get everything and more than what they expect. And so, I just think that athletics does so much for Division II institutions, and Tim hit on a lot of those points.
From an institutional perspective, our state appropriations fund only about 30%, so we're not 15%, but we're about 30%.
We're getting there quickly.
Yes, and it's going down. It's going down. You're exactly right. So
Not an aspirin goal, but a reality.
So every paying student becomes more valuable to us. And Janet Anderson is going to show in a little bit this afternoon just the value of what those students, and these are just the athletes, and you're right, so many students come because these athletes are here. Friends, girlfriends, boyfriends. I mean, there's just a whole group that come because of the athletic program. But one of the things Janet's going to show is those funds go to help fund the student center, the rec center, tutoring. There's so many different areas where they're paying money to help support programs. The faculty, they're paying a lot of their salary to teach those courses. So just a huge role.
I assume you Kate's trying to learn how to use his phone.
I thought it was too. Is my assistant position supposed to?
A coach or a recruit, or spouse. And very quickly, before we get off the finances topic, and I have my friend Dr. Taro's permission to talk about this, I don't think any of us have been on a campus in the country that has a marching band without an intercollegiate athletic program and a football program. That's another 223 minimum every year that are, I like that, full retail pay, or possibly just like, partial band scholarships, but again, rarely would a band member be on a full scholarship either. So
And we have a good one.
and we have an invested classroom, absolutely.
How about a choir? Do we have a good choir here? Because the happy birthday rendition was not very good. It's the only negative since I've been here.
We have a very good one, but those folks are not here.
There's no graduate choir majors in the room. We have obviously talked about it. We're preaching to the choir, bad metaphor, but the campus partnerships and the importance of it, and certainly, Alicia and I can brag on this place all day and will, but some best practices, whether at Florida Tech, at Grand Valley, at Toledo, at a different level, but what are some of the best practices and things that this group should know or needs to know, or that you guys have seen that is very effective? Go ahead.
I would start off and just by saying, encourage your student athletes, but also your coaching staff to get involved on campus, to attend different events on campus, not just athletics. So others around campus see coaches being there, see student athletes being there. When I was talking to Jill about this opportunity, and she really hit it home, I think, when she said this point, but, us in athletics can't expect people to attend and support us if we don't support them. And I think that's really the point that I saw firsthand at Florida Tech. We encourage our student athletes to go out, to attend a concert, to do other things on campus, to get involved with SGA. And I know you guys do that here, which is phenomenal. But really encourage them to really get out of their comfort zone, get out of their team, and just show support for others on campus.
That's a great point. To add to that point, Brian Kelly was our head football coach at Grand Valley for 13 years. He's now the head coach at Notre Dame. And he did some great things throughout his coaching career. He'll be in the College Football Hall of Fame someday, and that's been great. One of the things Brian was great about is being a part of things on campus. And when I got to Grand Valley, he was there, but he would take the time to go and do other things on campus. And as Brian pointed out to all the coaches here, that's important. You're just a part of the school, and you need to be able to be a part of everything else these other folks are doing as well. And I know you do that to your student athletes, but that's so important. On one of the slides Tim had up here, there was the phrase, a collective spirit. And I feel that here at Commerce, that you have that. And John mentioned several things athletics brings to the campus. School spirit is one of them, and it's important. That school spirit is vital on a campus of higher education. We talk about this time of year, everybody's excited. The students are coming back. School's about ready to start. The marching band's practicing and playing. You hear the band in their first game. That's important. Think what we have without that. It wouldn't be as exciting. And frankly, it wouldn't be as much fun. And we all need more fun in our lives. We really do. So I think that's important. And that collective spirit, I'm so fortunate. I make mention in that book of the people at Grand Valley that helped us out so much, from our admissions staff, our financial aid, our human resources office when we had positions to fill and getting them posted quickly, because you've got to move quickly in our world. When we had facilities issues and the folks in facilities taking care of them and making them top notch, that's so important for the success of an athletics department, certainly. But it's the collective best in class that you want to have throughout campus. That's so important, and everybody has to work together to make that happen. And we wouldn't have been able to do those things. I always mention the Learfield Directors Cups that we won. That's a school award. You can't win that in isolation in an athletics department. It's a school award. Everybody's contributing. And I'm thankful to those folks at Grand Valley for all the great things they did for us. And I can tell, hearing these coaches talk about people helping them out on weekends and recruiting, you've got that here. So keep that going. That's critical.
You want to talk about how it's evolved on athletic council and what you've seen? Obviously, you've been a big part of building this room up.
Yeah, I think athletic council has been an evolution. I love to tell the story that when Dr. Jones asked me to chair athletic council, it's the first time I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I don't know enough about athletics. But I'm so glad I did it because I have learned so much.
We also invite her to poker games too.
But I'll be honest, when I went in as chair of athletic council, I didn't know the difference between a D1, a D2, and D3. I had no idea what that meant. And I remember we hired our first AD, we hired Ryan Ivey a few years ago, and we were doing the matrix, where's Blake? And it was you want someone with D2 experience, and you gave points, and D1, 2, or 3, you gave them less points, or D1 and 3, and I was sitting there thinking, I don't even know what those mean. But now I do. But the council has evolved. I think we've got more participation now, where we were more structured and just people giving reports. Now we're trying to get people more involved, and we're even going to do a little bit more of that next year. We're going to have a little smaller council because we've got very large. But I think it's a council people want to be on, and they can no longer use the excuse that that's the way they get free tickets to the ball game, Dr. Humphreys, because everybody's going to get free tickets to the ball game. So let's hope that just continues, but I think it's really evolved.
And I'll add to that, when we use the term best practices, this is the best practice, right here. This group meeting annually, the number of D2 schools out there that aren't doing anything like this, it's a high volume. What you're doing is really, really a best practice, so congrats and keep doing
Any questions at this point? I certainly don't want to dominate. We've got plenty, the four of us could talk all day, but we do encourage audience participation, and while we've got our guests here, I certainly don't want to shortchange our time with them.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was actually, I've been here twice. I was here as an assistant. And I think when I was an assistant, it was right on the uptick that you're talking about. Right when Ryan Ivy came in, and then it's exploded since then. But I remember calling Case when we went through this, and I knew a lot of familiar faces in the room, so I started calling around and seeing what's going on, and if I'm hearing good things. And Case answered the phone, and he's like, "Oh, you're going for the position, awesome." And I was like, "All right, well, tell me what's really going on. Tell me what the new administration's like, how the new president is." And Case is like, "You're not gonna believe me." He's like, "But campus partners across, it's the best I've ever even seen or heard about with being able to collaborate, get things done, work together to accomplish goals and get what we need individually as programs to be the best we can be." And I've been here 120 days now, and I've already been in rooms and had discussions with things we were trying to get done in our recruiting process and getting our program off the ground. And I haven't hit a roadblock yet that people weren't willing to help get us through and get us where we're trying to go. So that's my experience in a short time.
Ryan, I wanted to ask you, for those that don't know, me and Ryan go way back. We were in the same area of the country as SIDs, and when he was the SID at Florida Tech, which is a relatively small, high academic profile private school that, if I remember and I did right, is not cheap at all, right?
No, it's not.
And they added football. They were the first Division II school in Florida to add football. Was that initial investment of coaches being on campus and students being on campus in other capacities useful when you needed a big buy-in to add a sport or a big buy-in on the athletic end?
Good question. So, Josh mentioned that it's a high academic school. I would say that its primary focus is academics. In athletics, I don't want to say it's secondary, but they really, really pride themselves on engineering, on science, math, technology, etc. I think when we initially announced that we were going to be adding football in 2011, there was some concern on campus. There definitely was. That we're going to be bringing in these guys. What's going to happen to the campus culture? What's going to happen to the athletics culture? And I really think that it's been fascinating to see since the announcement to the very first game in September 2013, how far that opinion has come across campus. And there are people that are genuinely excited about not only football, but the Florida Tech Panthers. And I think football could have very well perhaps helped them become Panther fans if they were not already. And so I really think it has opened some doors. But as Josh mentioned, football was one sport we added. When I was at FIT, if I'm not mistaken, I think I came in, we had 14 varsity sports. By the time I left, we had 22. And so the amount of growth that we had to have, because they're extremely high tuition, high demand school that is based on those tuition dollars, with it being a private school. There had to be a lot of buy-in from not only athletics, but for other people across campus that saw the vision that our president at the time had for not only the university, but for the athletic department.
Yeah, this is for Tim. I've been involved in Division II athletics since about the mid-'80s, and Grand Valley was not always the pinnacle of success in Division II, and now they are, and year after year win the Learfield Cup, and a lot of that transition came during your time there. I know we don't offer enough sports that will really compete for the very top of the Learfield Cup, but what did y'all do there through that transition from the 90s into present day as that school grew and your athletic department became a prominent figure across the nation? What are some of the things that happened there that we need to look at doing here?
Yeah, well, a great question. I had the opportunity to talk to Dr. Keck last week. We spent a good amount of time on the phone about a lot of things.
You spent a good amount of time just talking with Dr.
I'll address one of our conversations. I'll address the second one in a little while here while we're talking over lunch. But when I got to Grand Valley in 1996, we had 13,000 students. 20 years later, we have 24,000 students. Okay. We had 1,600 beds on campus. We were a commuter school. We had one private apartment building across the street from campus of 200 beds. We now have 6,000 beds on campus and a private apartment village of over 6,000 beds across the street from campus. We're a residential campus now. So I humbly admit I was the right guy at the right place at the right time. I had a good time. We wanted to become a residential school. Allendale is a village. At that time, 1/4 the size of Commerce. Now it's outside of Grand Rapids, which is the second largest city in Michigan. But in that 20-year period, and part of the reason I'm saying this, Dr. Keck and I, we talked about a lot of things, and in your state, you've had some Division II schools transition up to Division I. Abilene Christian, Carnal Word, I'm missing a few, there's been a couple others, I think. And when I got to Division II, that was a problem in the late 1990s. We had a lot of good schools going to Division I. The Dakota schools all went Division I. And we were losing good institutions. And we had to do something because 15, 20 years ago, we were Division II. We didn't have the brand that we have now. You know, people minimize branding. It's important. At that time, we didn't know how to describe Division II athletics to any of our constituents. How do you describe that? You know, when you go to a Rotary meeting in town, how do you describe? At that time, it was, well, we're a little bit like Division I, and we're a little bit like Division III. We're kind of in between. So at that time, Mike Racy, the then vice president of Division II, and Terry Steeb, his assistant then now, the vice president of Division II, and the marketing staff at the NCAA, Dennis Kreider and JoJo Reinbold, they made trips to about half a dozen schools around the country in Division II. And they wanted to hear the story. What is it special about Division II? And out of that came this life in the balance theme that we have in Division II. That the student in the student-athlete equation is the most important. And our kids are here to get their degree. But we play at a high level of competitive college athletics. This is a high level, right? And our students have the opportunity with community engagement and other things to broaden their experience so that when they go out in the real world, they're better prepared for it. And I would argue to anybody that our kids are much better prepared for the real world than the folks in Division I. And I would argue in the Power 5 level, they're not in the real world. They're catered to, and it's entitlement to the maximum. And our kids are better prepared for real life because they get hit in the face pretty hard when they go into real life. Because right now at that level, everything's done for them, right? And we eat at the Golden Corral, Division II. We don't stay at a hotel unless it gives a free breakfast. Right?
La Quinta is Spanish for Division II.
Next to Denny's.
So, what did we do? Well, I would tell you, our school, in that 20-year period, we invested almost $750 million in academic facilities and residence halls, okay? And we built a new $70 million library 3 years ago. And we're building another $60 million health sciences building downtown because the current health sciences building, we're really good, really strong in nursing, occupational therapy, physical therapy, physician assistance program, undergraduate now, okay? And we got to build another building downtown. So, at downtown Grand Rapids. So that helped our institution take off. Our engineering school is downtown. Our business school is downtown. It offers us some issues logistically with athletics and practice and kids get treatment and all that. But from a recruiting standpoint and for the institution and the branding, that was huge for our school to have a downtown Grand Rapids presence. But more than that, when you think about all those things and the money that was spent, it was spent on students. We focused, our president, our leadership at the time, it was, we're going to put our dollars to students in those programs and residence halls and student life activities. Now, as an athletics director, I wanted a little bit more of that pie, okay, for some of our things. But I couldn't complain. We have excellent facilities. You guys have seen them that visited our school last fall. But here's one argument I have with people, because I got the question all the time, why aren't you going Division I? And you guys will face that question too. Believe me, as you have more and more success, you already have and you'll continue to face it. And one of the answers I give to people is, we just built a $70 million library and learning center in Grand Valley 4 years ago. If we're Division I, no way that happens. No way. Because we would have to spend at least $70 million on our football stadium to upgrade that to FCS level. All right. We would have to, well, but that's just football. I mean, we're talking about all these other facilities that are not Division I caliber. And then that creates all sorts of problems on campus. And John's telling no to everybody more often. Okay? And Alicia's got bigger and bigger problems figuring things out from a financial standpoint on campus. So, so what did we do? We stayed in our lane. We were humble enough. I like Tim's hungry, humble, hustle. All right? Be humble. And we decided we're going to be the best we can be in Division II. And now we've got something special. I make the argument our school has become what it is. And I don't want to bore you with all this, but Grand Valley's only 55 years old. You guys were on our campus. I tell people it's one of the greatest stories in the history of higher education. In 55 years, we've got 24,000 students. And it's become one of the top 3 undergraduate institutions in the state of Michigan. University of Michigan, Michigan Tech is terrific, and in Grand Valley. In profile, in every way, graduation rates in every way. That's a great story. And we did that because we were Division II. If we were Division I and the financial competition for those dollars on campus, it would have been a huge mistake. So one thing we did was we stayed humble, and we wanted to be best in class in Division II. You guys you're talking about best practices, you're right on the mark with that. Absolutely. So I don't know if that answers it, but I'll answer a little more later.
And it does, but to play off of that, talk about, in good conscience, it's very hard for me to envision with the momentum we have going right now and where we can go, not just from the economic, the campus impact, the lack of philanthropic history here at a school that's 127 years old. Those are all obvious challenges, but talk about what a Division I student athlete would go. We would have entire recruiting classes that would come through and never have a chance to go into postseason if Division I were even on the radar. I think that's something that gets really lost in the mix of the student athlete impact on it.
Yeah, no question about it. I played at the University of Toledo. It's in the Mid-American Conference, Division I, Miami of Ohio, Bowling Green, Ohio U, Ball State. Those schools are in that league. You had no chance of winning a national championship. None. At Commerce, at Grand Valley, you got a chance to win a national championship. All right, now, in and of itself, that's not the reason we're here. But I'll tell you why that's important. As a college student athlete, former college basketball player myself, and some of the rest of you in the room here played college athletics. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this later on. It's a grind at times. This is a high level of competition at Division II that you're playing in. And I'll even throw in Division III. Doesn't matter. College athletics, it's hard work. Am I right, Taryn? It's hard work. And you went to practice every day, something hurt, I'll bet.
Yeah.
Something in your body was hurt. Great lessons to teach you, all right, to get through that. But it can be a real grind if you don't have a carrot on the end of it. That's one of the beauties of Division II. The fun in this is when you get in the playoffs and they're 9th, but boy, just a little bit better, and they're in the top 8, and you're in national championships and going to the regionals and going to postseason play. That's a huge thing about Division II that I love. Having been at a school in Division I where we had no chance of winning a national championship. I played on 2 teams that got in the NCAA tournament, played in the Sweet 16, but we weren't going to win a national championship, and we knew it. At Commerce, you can win a national championship. Every one of these sports, you can win a national championship. That's a valuable thing to student athletes that really they want to be good in their sport. They train hard, they work hard. It's nice to have that carrot on the end of things. So, what's our postseason opportunities Division II? It's better than the other divisions, right?
It's the best. So 1 out of every 7 Division II student athletes will have a chance to compete for a national championship in postseason play. And that is the best across the entire association. And that's one thing that we really tout And
Say that number again.
1 out of every 7 student athletes will compete for a national championship in postseason play. And I will mention that Jill sent some additional printed materials that we'll be giving out to this group. It basically touts the benefits of Division II. Tim alluded to a number of different things as far as Division I compared to Division II, but one thing that we firmly believe that we offer in Division II is balance. That balance between athletics and academics. From my involvement with SAC, I'm fortunate to be the primary liaison of Division II National SAC. And so I work a lot with Taryn, and Taryn does a fantastic job for that group. But I firmly believe our Division II student athletes, and there's 27 on that committee, love Division II. They do not see the athletic experience as being a job. They see it as being part of the college experience. And I think if you poll Division I student athletes and you ask them about their experience in Division I, what do they see as their sport? As a job. Because it's constantly on their mind. They don't have that time balance that I firmly believe that we offer in Division II.
And you've expanded SAC even on our campus being involved. on
Yes,
athletic
I mean,
council.
athletic council, we've loved having the support, and I love hearing the things that SAC is doing around the community. I mean, that's just so helpful.
Questions? Talk a little bit, all three of you, if you would, just hot button topics, issues, things that you see on other campuses coming up. On the way over here, you and I were having a pretty direct conversation about some conferences and institutions that aren't going to compete for that national championship that are sponsoring Division II athletics, and just like in the Division I schools that we get the column, it's just there's the have and the have-nots, but just the value of what being a Division II. We very frankly in the Lone Star now we have some that aren't competing at that best in class level or even aspiring to, but they're trying to help grow and roll. But talk about things maybe specifically that you guys have seen across the country that maybe that we want to emulate or not emulate.
Sure. I mean, one thing that we do see, I think, from a national office standpoint is just how the Division II membership is fluctuating a little bit right now. We've got a number of schools that are closing their doors completely, not just athletics. We've got a number of schools that are looking to go Division I, looking to go Division III. But we also, right now, we've got 5 institutions that as of September 1st will become Division II members. And so we'll have about 308 Division II institutions when we kick off the 2017-18 academic year. And so I think we're going to see in all 3 divisions that the membership numbers change. And that's unfortunate, especially from a financial standpoint, because that's what a lot of this is due to, is the finances of the institution. And as Tim alluded to, it's very good to see that you guys are doing extremely well here at Texas A&M Commerce with your finances, and you guys are at a great point right now in the current time, but I think as you move forward in the future.
And to piggyback on that, I mentioned earlier, enrollment is a huge issue in many schools, as Ryan said. We've lost some Division II memberships because they've closed their doors. That's tough sledding right there. And I think, if I'm correct, and the folks in the back would know this better than I, but I think the number of high school graduates in the country, maybe, and in Michigan anyway, continues to go downward until about 2024, and then it starts to level out, I think. That's a problem at even public institutions like ours, like yours, that get less and less state support. So that's going to be a key issue is enrollment, I think, in many Division II schools. And I was at a gathering about a month or so ago, and one of the staff members at the school I was at referred to how this was certainly a tough budget year. And I said, well, I was in college athletics for 35 years, and every year I heard the term, this is a tough budget year. It is. We're at institutions at which you have to maximize every penny you have, and you have to get really good at that. And I'm thankful at Grand Valley. We had leadership when I arrived there. They were terrific. We really pinpointed our dollars to what it can do to help student success. And you've got to be able to do that. And the athletics folks understand this very well. You've got to maximize every penny you have, whether it's scholarship dollars, whether it's budget dollars, recruiting, whatever it is, you've got to maximize it. And I know you work with financial aid and all the work that they're doing over there to help students out. And these coaches are offering the opportunity to give them some partial athletic scholarships to make that package a little better for students, and working with financial aid. It's so important that working together, because all of us in here could tell stories about young people that would not have gotten a degree but for that help. And that's absolutely critical. That's going to remain a big part of Division II going forward. I would say the other thing, I think in Division II as a whole, we're going to continue to discuss, and it may be sport by sport, but the length of the playing seasons. I happen to be the chair of the Division II Management Council back in 2009 when we passed what was called the Life in the Balance package. And what was happening in Division II, we called it season creep. The seasons start getting longer and longer and longer, and more games like we see in Division I. I mean, for crying out loud, the basketball teams that make the finals of Division I, they play 40 games. That's half of an NBA season. In football now, with their playoff and their conference championships, they're almost playing an NFL season. All right? And you see more and more creep in Division I, and we wanted to get a rein on that in Division II, and we did that. We cut all the sports roughly 10%. It wasn't exactly that, but more or less like that. And to keep the length of the playing seasons in check. Now, we've made some adjustments in the last few years since that was passed. Football's added a few days because we don't have 2 days anymore. For the health and welfare of those kids, I can't believe it took us 50 years to get to that point. But it certainly is better for them. I mean, the days of Bear Bryant and Junction boys is over, right? And you got to adjust. It's a different world we live in today, right? And these kids come to us having been involved in the youth sports world, and many of you probably had kids play club this and club that, and AU this and AU that, and they're more burnt out than ever before. And they test our athletic training staffs more than ever before. They test our staffs that deal with students and mental and emotional issues even more. And so I think we're going to continue to grapple with that Division II to find that sweet spot, if you will, of what should be the length of the season. Yeah, we don't have lots of resources that we can add things, and we got to be careful because Division I seems to never keep that in check. I mean, they're starting now in football, soccer's already starting now. Soccer's playing like 2 games. I looked at Iowa, our former coach at Iowa, they play like August 15th. What is that? So.
Yeah, Tim, I appreciate the statement about the life and the balance. I serve as the FAR here at the university. And of course, we have to challenge the athletic administrators and some of the coaches at times regarding the length of games and the schedule and so forth. So I appreciate that statement that you just made, because we do push hard to make sure that these students are in classes and they don't have an extended season. So I appreciate that.
And, we have life in the balance. Right? We talk about that. And here you've got these highly competitive people, right? Right here in front of you, all right? And these highly competitive student athletes. Sure. They want to go to national, they want to do that. And so we've got to balance that. We, the leaders of the institution, do have to keep that in check to make sure that they can fulfill their dreams, and yet it isn't impacting them. I will tell you this, along with that, I appreciate those comments. We did an exit interview with every sport, a senior from every sport every year, and you guys probably do the same, exit interviews, okay? One of the questions we asked them was, would you have liked to have spent less time in your sport? 19 out of 20 say, no, I wish we could play a little bit more. They're competitive, right? They want to be good. But more and more and more causes their bodies to break down more and more and more. All right, and more sometimes causes the issues they're dealing with, the stress of it all. So we have to keep all that in balance. And balance is a great word. You're going to hear me talk about John Wooden in a little bit. And he said the 2 greatest words in the English language are love and balance. Love, because everybody's in need to love and be loved. And to have success, we must have balance in everything we do. So there's a sweet spot in there, and competitive athletics people, we tend to want to do more and more and more, right? But we do have to check ourselves at times and keep it in balance. So that's why, again, why Division II is great. Because we do, I think, check ourselves. And we're not driven by more and more and more money, particularly in Division I.
One other priority that is going to remain in the national office is going to be the health and safety of our student athletes across all three divisions. The Sports Science Institute, who's led by our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Brian Hanline, has done a fantastic job of leading that group and really making strides in the area of developing information on mental health, on sexual assault. Those two areas right now are so extremely critical on our college campuses. And I think our SSI has done a fantastic job of putting together documents that our institutions and our membership can utilize, and hopefully put some plans in place, if they don't have plans in place, about the areas of mental health and sexual assault.
And because Jill said it a couple of weeks ago when we were in India, I think we can quote it, kind of like, don't know why it took us that long. And she said earlier, I don't know why it took us that long, but it took us several decades to figure out that it's nice to have a chief medical officer at NCAA headquarters that can guide those things, because, you know, certainly need that professionalized and streamlined. Make a difference. Yes, ma'am.
Alicia, I heard you mention the great things our student athletes are doing in the community. I would love to hear some highlights about that.
I think Taryn would probably be best to answer that.
Okay.
She has an encyclopedia.
You'll hear it at some point.
But go ahead.
Okay.
And start most
Oh, we're
recent.
gonna talk about it later.
If you're not going to be here later, but we do have it in the slides.
I'll be here later. I can wait till the slide.
But stand up and tell them what happened Sunday.
Give the preview for people who don't.
Okay.
Yeah, stand up and tell them what happened Sunday.
So one of our major ones this year was Close the Child, and at 5:30, 5 possibly in the morning, we went to Walmart in the surrounding areas, Commerce, Greenville, Sulphur Springs, all brought children up to Walmart, and we helped them Christmas shop. They each had a certain allowance, and so us athletes just went around with them, helped them try on the clothes, said like, yeah, that looks great, you should get it, blah, 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 made sure they were sticking to the things that they should get for that. And we just added it all up, helped them check out, and then we'd go to the next family. And I think that they just loved being with us and doing that, because they got our opinion on stuff, and you know, shopping with older kids just makes you enjoy it more. And then other than that, we raised money for Make-A-Wish throughout the whole entire year. We did several different fundraisers. Tim got dunked this year in the polar plunge, so that was our major one.
McMurray, not Selgo.
Yes, Tim McMurray.
Well, I thought on the Make-A-Wish deal, everybody just came by my office. I got this kind of revolving door.
The provost set a record for Make-A-Wish donations for some reason this year.
What did the date change for Tim? I got some email.
Yeah.
Because it was too cold.
It's too cold.
And then, but then it ended up, we rescheduled it, and it was the coldest day of the year. So he got dunked the coldest day of the year. That's all right.
You can't trip over the pass without.
Judy will talk about some more of our community service, but the Make-A-Wish funders that we do throughout the year is our big pride and joy, as well as the community engagement. They go hand in hand, I believe. And this year we won the SAC Cup Commerce Sit, so it just shows how much we're doing.
Anything else?
I can go ahead. You know, I'll add to what Terrence talked about Division II. 10, 12, 14 years ago, Division II, Division I didn't do this, Division III didn't do this. Division II took on Make-A-Wish as our cause, and are led by our national SAC, okay, back then. And over the course of this time, Division II, I think, has raised close to $4.7 million for Make-A-Wish. So, goes back to our kids are learning something that's a little bit beyond themselves, okay? Division III a few years ago copied our lead. They have adopted Special Olympics as their cause, so good for them. Division I is, I think Wall Street's their cause. But we're teaching them something beyond themselves. There's a greater good out there, and all these kids led by Taryn and throughout our country, our SACs are doing it. So keep knocking on John's door. That's the best practice right there.
Thank you. Thank you for the question, Katrina. Any other thoughts? Well, if we would, this panel's the only thing standing between us and the barbecue line. So we will dismiss for lunch. We're going to make a slight adjustment to lunch. We're going to come back here and eat so we can maximize our time with Tim. And I think Ryan is going to stay for lunch but has to catch a flight after that. So just appreciate the three of you joining us here this morning. We'll be around a little bit through lunch, so grab Tim before he, we'll let him have 7 minutes to eat and then we're going to put him up here. But, so we'll let our guests go ahead and go through the lines first, but just please help me in welcoming or thanking them for being here this morning. A lot of great information. Thank you. Lunch is served.